Hi, folks, and as I'm recording this, I have just completed, well, several hours ago, a 20-mile long run in some fairly warm and humid conditions. And earlier, just before the run, if you can say, I'd posted this picture on Instagram, Facebook of all the hydration stuff, and then ultimately had a fairly good run for the conditions. And of course, a lot of kind people saying, oh my gosh, how do you have a good run when it's so warm and humid? So I thought I'd talk a little bit about kind of what works for me. I think it works for a lot of people, but we're all individuals. It all comes down to what I call the sweat factor, because it's all about how much you're going to sweat, and the pace that you're going, the conditions are going to determine how much you're going to sweat, and that's going to determine what you're going to be able to do. So the plan that was laid out for today was I was to run 20 miles. The goal pace was to be about an 8:30 pace. That is slightly adjusted for conditions. Normally for me at this stage in marathon training, a 20 miler might be a little bit faster, but already adjusted just a little bit. The weather forecast was 73 degrees when I was going to start at 6 a.m., about 90% humidity, and to be cloudy. So that was the conditions I was looking at, and I was kind of watching the weather to kind of say, what am I going to be able to do? Because to me, the big thing I've got to say is, can I stay hydrated? For me, it is all about hydration. I have got to be hydrated, and if I can stay hydrated, I can maintain a pace, whatever that might be for the hydration. Likewise, if I get dehydrated, I've had some runs like that this year, it's just kind of brutal at the end, and that's what I want to avoid. So what did I think about or do? So first of all, daily hydration with electrolytes is really important. If I'm not staying hydrated during the week and getting some electrolytes in, it really doesn't matter what I'm doing that day because I'm starting behind the 8 ball. So I really made sure I was focusing on hydration every day. I wanted to start early at 6 a.m. I would have liked to have started even a little bit earlier to avoid any sun, but thankfully the forecast was cloudy. But I've seen cloudy before and they've been wrong, and then you get some sun. But the route that I wanted to run was through a tree-lined area, and I didn't really be running that in the dark. 6 a.m. was sunup, so that was about the earliest I could start. I decided I wanted to over-fuel the run. Now, typically for a 20, unless I'm trying to practice with fuel, I'm not going to take a lot of fuel if I'm running at a slower pace because I don't like to take a lot of fuel on training runs if I don't need it. But I wanted to have a really successful run. So I decided to fuel for this just like I would in a marathon, meaning that I ended up taking about probably 600 calories of fuel during that run. I wanted it to be successful. I knew I'd have to adjust the pace. I thought 8:30 was just going to be a little bit stiff of a pace for me for that temperature and that humidity, and I was going to get fluids every mile. If you saw in that picture, I had all kinds of fluids set up. I was going to see my car or a water fountain every 3 miles to kind of get refilled on that. I just wanted to make sure I was drinking something every single mile and really getting a lot of fluid. And I figured when all is said and done, I was probably going to have somewhere around a gallon of fluid on there. So all this gave me a degree of mental confidence that I was going into this smart. I was going to be hydrated. I was going to maintain my pace. I was going to be able to maintain that hydration. And I should be able to have a fairly good run based upon that. And certainly I had a lot of learnings from the hot runs this summer so far at what it was going to take to do that. So what actually happened? Well, the first 8 miles or so, I was at about an 8:40 pace, so I was going a little bit slower than the plan was. I had adjusted because I don't want to get started too fast. You're going to pay for that later. If I got a little gas in the tank later, fine, I can spend it then, but I wanted to go more conservative because I thought that was going to help me maintain the hydration. And so good news, I had an urge to pee. That's really good news because when you're dehydrated, you don't feel like you need to. And so I thought that was a good thing because I've certainly had some runs where it's hours before I even go to the bathroom, and that's not a very good thing. It means you've been dehydrated. So I felt I was starting out pretty good. Then around miles 8 through 15, we got a little bit of a light drizzle. And when that light drizzle came, it just instantly felt a little bit cooler, and I was able to notch the pace down just a little bit, more like around 8:25 or 8:30, so about 10 or 15 seconds a mile, and still feel like I had pretty much the same effort and felt like I could keep up on that hydration. So that drizzle really helped, and that allowed me to notch the pace down a little bit more. And then towards the end of the run, miles 18 through 20, I was able to finish pretty strong. I did an 8:05 and 8:05, and then I went back to 8:30. Could I have done 8:05 again? Probably, but frankly, 8:05 was probably a little faster than I needed to do for the run that I was doing, and I didn't want to do anything crazy, so I was able to notch that back and finish pretty strong. So in the end, I did my 20 miles. It was an 8:28 pace, so pretty close to predicted. And it was 73 degrees, 90% humidity, just like they said. It was cloudy, but we got some drizzle, and drizzle was in the forecast, and I was happy to see that. Now, what are some other things that might have happened that would cause me to adjust or do something differently? Well, if it was hotter, If the forecast was 78 degrees versus 73 degrees, I absolutely would have had to dial that pace back a little bit more, because those 4 or 5 degrees are going to matter a lot. At least they do for me. I think the hottest, most humid run I had was in Florida a couple of weeks ago. It was 80 degrees, like 95% humidity, and even slowing my pace, I couldn't keep up on hydration. I was drenched when I was done. Frankly, I should have dialed that pace back even more than I did. I just didn't keep up. The sweat factor overcame me. So hotter would have mattered. More humid would have mattered. If we had not gotten that drizzle, I'd have kept that pace up there more around 840, maybe still doing a little bit more at the end if I felt like I could do that without feeling like I'm pushing it too much. But that drizzle really ended up helping me. And then sun in big letters. It was really good to be cloudy. Of course, it's tough to have drizzle without cloudy. But I think people underestimate the impact of sun. Again, I had a run, I think 3 weeks or so ago. It was about 72 degrees or whatnot. The humidity was low, but there was very little shade and direct sun the entire time. And it was really difficult to keep up on hydration, and you just can't do it at that point in time. So, slower, maybe a lot slower when you get sun or the conditions. So when your next run is coming up, take a look at the weather, take a look at your own examples, and consider all those things. But it really comes down to what is your sweat factor, because the better that you can maintain your hydration, the more successful that run will be.